Hey lovelies, my name is Joanna and I am a third year medical student. Hopefully, depending on what I get on step, but that's another story. Today, I'm actually doing a requested video, my first requested video. I'm so excited. And so I was asked to give tips for studying in high school or tips for high school students. So that's what today's video is going to be about. I have 5 tips, not many, and they're not really tips, more like advice. But I wanted to give a video that had information that wasn't really on other videos that I've seen on YouTube because I watch a lot of YouTube. I'm trying to be less of a consumer, but that's, again, another story. I ramble a lot and I am sorry that you have to experience that, but let's get right into the video. My first tip slash piece of advice is to build your study toolkit. Build your study toolkit. Now, you're in high school, this is the time to develop those habits that is going to take you onto your long life of academic slash career success, right? Especially because I know that most of the people that watch my channel, if not all, are interested in a career in medicine. So high school is the time when you really want to start building, at least have a rudimentary toolkit that will help you when you get into college, whether or not you go to a BSMD program like mine. These are just things you need to know. The things that go into your toolkit, right? 1, figure out how you study or what type of learner you are, okay? I'm gonna link a few free online or maybe one free online that I've taken before quiz that will teach you how you learn, because knowing that is going to really solidify how it is that you approach studying and learning on your own. If you are an auditory learner, you're not going to sit down and read a textbook. But if you don't know that you're an auditory learner, you might sit down and read textbooks and not understand why you're not retaining information. So that's why it's very important. The first thing I want you to put in that toolkit is the type of learner that you are, and you're going to have to take a quiz to find out. I did not learn my learning style until towards the end of college, quite a bit too late. So yes, that's the first thing that I want you to put in there. Then, once you figured out how you learn, you're going to start solidifying your skills. So, I want you to learn how to take good notes. There are lots and lots and lots of note-taking videos on YouTube and books about note-taking and all that. Learn how to take good notes. I do not mean pretty notes. I do not mean to get mild liners and fine liners and take notes that take hours and you never read them again. I mean good notes. Yes, you can color code. Yes, if the script and the titles and the banners and stuff help you, you can do all of that. But if you're just doing it for the aesthetic and you're really just wasting your own time, it's not going to benefit you. So learn how to take good notes. You're going to learn how to attain information. I think that everyone, regardless of what type of learning style you are, should know how to read a textbook. Okay, I mean, if you're an auditory learner and reading a textbook doesn't help you, I guess you wouldn't need the skill. But learn how to read a textbook. Especially, I know a lot of the people who watch my videos are either taking pre-college courses or are in AP or IB courses. You can even be in a regular high school level course. I want you to really learn how to read that textbook. And by learning how to read a textbook, I mean reading it for the information and not to regurgitate. Read it to synthesize the information and to make connections and learn it rather than reading it to regurgitate it. So read it, and when you take notes, you're not taking notes based off of like word for word, like you're not taking verbatim notes. What you're going to do is you're going to get the main ideas and details that pertain to that main idea from the reading, and you're going to write it in your own words, right? So you're going to learn how to read a textbook. You're going to put in resources that work for you. You're gonna have your Khan Academy. You're gonna have your Khan Academy, especially if you're a high school student, you need that. There are some resources here on YouTube I will link that I think are really good for high school students who are studying science. So I'm going to link all of that below for you guys. Other things that should go in your toolkit: you should have a routine when you study. You should have an area where you study. You should have things that you do when you study. Have your water, have your juice or your coffee or your tea. You want to have even music. I know that for me, lo-fi, when I start playing lo-fi, I'm gonna get studying. Have a playlist or something that you start playing, some instrumental music that helps you get into the mood of studying. Learn how to make study schedules that work for you. If you have a template or whatnot that you like to do, I'm more of a to-do list person. I tend to make over ambitious to-do lists. That's something I have to work on, but you should still have that skill to plan out what to do. So those are the things that I think you should do. The first thing to do is to build a study toolkit. If needed, I can make a more in-depth video about the concept of a study toolkit, because if you may have noticed, it's not an actual box. It's just kind of a portfolio of skills to help you do well. So I can make another video on that if it's needed. But yes, number 2 is the essential everyone should have in their toolkit, regardless of what type of learning style you have. That is flashcards and spaced repetition together. Now, the one place where you can get both flashcards and spaced repetition together is Anki. I know every medical student by now is probably heard of or is using Anki. I use Anki. Anki is amazing because you have this flashcard, you can make the flashcard, and they have that spaced repetition built in. What is spaced repetition? Basically, I'm going to put a definition right here. Hopefully I remember this in editing. Here's the definition. But to me, basically, it is you're doing some flashcards and you're bringing up information that you've reviewed right before it slips from your memory. So if something was easy for you today, Anki is going to bring it up for you 4 days later, and then 9 days later, and then 3 weeks later, to make sure that's really ingrained, and make sure that you have really learned it, right? You don't need Anki to make your flashcards and to do spaced repetition, especially if you are an iPhone user. I am a Galaxy user. If you're an iPhone user, I think the app costs $25, which is a little bit ridiculous. So instead of doing that, you can use Quizlet. I use Quizlet a lot in high school, even if you're not really doing the spaced repetition, even though that is like the best way to review. Just flashcards in general is really, really good. I used Quizlet in high school. You can use Google Sheets to kind of make a list of things you want to review, and you can color code it and then review it in your own manner of spaced repetition. I will link some videos below on what Ali Abdal has done using Google Sheets and spaced repetition. His videos are awesome. So I aspire to be at his level of filmmaking or video making, but I'm getting there. So yes, I will link some of his videos down below. Yes, you can also use Notion. He talks about Notion. Thomas Frank talks about Notion. I think everyone's talking about Notion. Notion is awesome. I believe it is free for most people, especially if you have a college email. I'm not sure. I will link the details about Notion below, but I like to use Notion to do spaced repetition because I just didn't have the energy to make Anki cards. I prefer pre-made decks for Anki. So what I was doing is I would make toggle lists on my Notion and I would color code it. So things that were green, I would review it every 4th day. Things that were yellow, I would review it every 2nd day. And then red things, I would review it like every day until I would change the colors. And then everything that was green, I'd have a list of green things called the green series. I know it's weird, but I would review that twice a week, and that's how I use Notion to do my own spaced repetition without having to use Anki or Quizlet. So there's many ways to do this, but I think that regardless of what type of learner you are, whether you are visual, I'm very visual, I like to read. I'm not as auditory. Like if I'm watching a video, I'm more so focused on what the slides are or what's in the video than what I'm hearing. It's weird, but I'm a very visual learner, and so the cards help me, but I think that it would help anybody. But this is a skill that should be in your toolkit because it will help you, especially in your science courses, the very memory-based ones like chemistry, organic chemistry, things like that. Okay. Number 3, I feel like this is not something that's very spoken about for high school students, or maybe it is and I'm just not watching the right videos, but it is testing anxiety. I, for one, did not experience testing anxiety until I got into school, until I got into the undergraduate portion of my program. I was so nervous taking tests, and it really came from because I hadn't been doing well, and I'm going to talk about this a bit later about confidence and whatnot, but I had lost a lot of my confidence, and that was making me struggle when I was taking exams, and I was having a lot of anxiety. So the 3 things that I think are the best in terms of reducing testing anxiety is 1, study well and study hard. Figure out how you learn. Make sure you're retaining and absorbing the information, and then when you get to the testing day, because you have the information, you're gonna feel less anxious when taking the test. Now, is it gonna dissipate all of your anxiety? No, but it's gonna help you a little bit knowing that, okay, breathe, I know the information, I've studied long and hard, I can do this. So you want to make sure that you're studying long and hard for that exam, and that's gonna help you with your testing anxiety. Number 2, you want to simulate testing. You want to simulate your testing environment as close as possible. So what I used to do when I took chemistry, organic chemistry, and even like biochemistry, we had packets of multiple choice questions, and I would sit in the room, time myself, and just go through all the multiple choice questions and review it afterwards. So that way I was basically testing myself. I would sit down and give myself a test. Even for studying for step 1, I would go through and do MBMEs. I would do simulation tests in as close to testing environments as I could. Before COVID, you could have gone to like prometric centers and practice there to really help, but I couldn't do that. So I would try the best that I could to simulate testing conditions at my house. That's what you have to do. It helps you so much because then you can breathe. And I think it would be a bit easier now because I know that a lot of people are doing at home online type schooling. So it would be easier to simulate testing conditions in the environment where you will be taking tests because you're going to be taking your tests at home. So I'm not sure. I just, in my head, theoretically, it seems easier. I just don't know. I don't know everyone's situation at home. Some people don't have Wi-Fi. Some people don't have the technology. I know there's many families, like even myself growing up, I didn't get my first laptop until I started college. We all just had one home computer. So my sister and I used to take turn doing whatever homework we had to do or typing whatever papers we had to type. And my mom was also in school, so she would also have her turn to do all of her stuff. So I get it. It can be very difficult when there's not enough devices for everyone and everyone's at home doing school. But you know, you just gotta persevere. You gotta persevere through it. You can do it. Like honestly, if you set your mind to something and let that goal serve as a compass for you and not necessarily a map, you're gonna make it where you're going. Because a lot of times we go off track, right? So if we have a map and we go off track, we will get lost and we'll be anxious and we'll think, oh, I'm never going to get to my goal. I'm never going to become that lawyer or that doctor or that writer. But no, if you have a compass that's kind of always generally pointing you in the right way to go, even if you get a little bit off track, your compass will point you back, right? So that's why I've always been more of a life compass than a life map person. Not always. This was a recent thing. I don't know where this rambling came from. Anyway, what was I on? Number 3? Yeah, I was on number 3. And the last thing for testing anxiety is breathing exercises. I know this sounds dumb, but it does help. Another reason why it's important to practice in testing conditions is so that you can get the timing down. Once I started timing myself taking practice exams, I knew, okay, at this point I have a little moment where I can close my eyes and breathe. At this point I have a little moment where I can close my eyes and breathe. And it really helped me figure out my timing in the test. But regardless, if you're feeling anxious, close your eyes, breathe, count backwards from 10, open them, and keep going. You just gotta try and do everything you can to get the anxious energy out of your body and keep going, because if you just try and push through because you're anxious, you're just not even going to be reading the questions right. I remember taking like practice exams being anxious, and I wasn't even reading in English. I don't know what I was seeing, I don't know what I was doing, but once I started breathing throughout my exams, like after 2 blocks, breathe, continue, or if one block really shook me up, breathe, continue, I started to see a lot of improvement. So that's just this old lady speaking from my experiences. Number 4 on the list. Wait, I'm just checking my script because I don't know what I'm talking about anymore. Oh yes, number 4. You want to become a very self-motivated learner. Because especially I know most people on this channel, again, are looking into careers in medicine, looking into becoming a medical doctor. You have to be self-motivated. You have to really seek information for yourself, especially if you're first gen, especially if there's no doctors in your family, especially if you are from an underrepresented group, because it's not as laid out for us. And so you have to really be a self-motivated learner, and this can start early. If you're in high school and you're in a class and you're not getting everything that the teacher is teaching, you're not getting everything in your textbooks, in your class notes, seek out the extra information. Go on Khan Academy and watch videos. Go on YouTube and watch videos. Look for different workbooks online. Look for different textbooks online. You have to be seeking that knowledge for yourself. What I used to do is in college, this was towards the end when I really started to get myself together. If a textbook wasn't working for me for a course, I found a better textbook on my own. We had access to like an online library, and there were the recommended textbooks we had for the class, and I would read some of them and I'd be like, I don't like this textbook, and I'm a reader, so I would find a better textbook and I would read that textbook. As long as it correlates really, really well and it's the same information. You have to be self-motivated and you have to figure these things out. Be open to asking questions. If someone is not answering your questions the way you want it to be answered, ask other people or seek out the answer by yourself, but you have to be self-motivated. And also because medicine is not something that's like one and done. You don't finish medical school and never take a test again. Like, you are constantly learning throughout your career as a physician. And so you have to develop that skill of being a self-motivated and a self-motivated learner from the beginning, especially because a lot of schools now, I know my school has done it, has shifted towards self-directed learning. They really want the students to do the bulk of the learning, and then school is more so like discussion of what we've been learning. So start to pick up that skill and that desire and that drive from high school, and everything else will be much easier, especially when you get to college, because during pre-med, those courses like the organic chemistries, the biochemistries, which are the weeding out courses, I hate that term, but that's just how they tend to be. You have to really seek for yourself, ask for help, look up information, watch the extra videos, go to office hours, read if the textbook for the course. I remember there was one class where the professor wrote his own textbook. Girl, I found another one. I found another textbook. Find other textbooks. There are other textbooks. Yes. And tip number 5, as I said I was going to talk about it, is confidence. You got to have confidence. You have to have confidence, and you have to persevere. And when I mean confidence in yourself, not in your grades or in your abilities, because you are more than a grade. I know that I personally built a lot of my identity around my ability to do well in school, and then when I stopped doing as well when I started college, I literally had like a 5-year long identity crisis. It was just ridiculous. You have to have confidence that you are more than your grade. You are more than your grade. I don't care if you didn't get what you expected on the SAT, the ACT, the MCAT, all of that. Breathe. You are more than that number. You are a whole and complete person. Persevere, study for it, take it again, figure out what the issue was and take it again. The reason why this is important is because if you understand that you are more than a grade, you can figure out the point of confusion on what you did wrong. But if you don't dissociate your identity from your grades, you're gonna think I am wrong, and you're not. You just didn't quite get the formula right. You didn't know all the information, or you didn't know the bits and pieces they were testing. Maybe you were a bit anxious. Like, there's lots of things that can happen to make a test, especially a test that you take one day, that determines something so big. There are many things that could affect that grade. So don't think that you are then less than because you didn't do well on a specific test. You're not a number, you're a whole person. So that's one thing that I think you should develop very early from high school, because I know in high school that's where I started to build that identity into myself, that I am a good person because I do well in school. And that's not true. You are a good person who does well in school. You are this person who can do well in school. You are this person who struggled on this test, but you're still like, your personhood and your grades are separate. I don't know if I'm explaining it well, but I just feel that because that was what I did in high school is the best time to start undoing it if you're seeing yourself doing the same things that I was doing. And just perseverance, man, because the journey to medicine is long and hard, and BSMD is not the only route. There's so many routes to it. You can go to college. Some people don't even get into college the first time around. You gotta persevere. Some people don't get into med school the first time around. You gotta persevere. Because I believe that once you set your mind to it, you can do it, you know? So that's my video today. If this wasn't necessarily what you're expecting for tips for high school students, please let me know. I will make another one, a better one. I just want to make sure that everything I put on my channel is beneficial, and it's something that you guys want to see. So yes, that is it for today. Thank you for watching. Like and subscribe. Peace.